It was just an accident, right, Anastasia? Griffin's voice was tense as he squeezed my hand too tightly in the emergency room. I stared at him. The pain in my ribs made it hard to breathe. The worried faces of the ER staff were a sharp contrast to my husband's forced smile and his mother's carefully rehearsed look of concern. My name is Anastasia, and 12 hours ago, my mother-in-law pushed me down the wooden stairs in our house. Now I was lying in a hospital bed with 3 broken ribs, a sprained wrist, and so many bruises that I looked like an abstract painting. "Tell them you slipped, my dear," Evangeline, my mother-in-law, chimed in sweetly. "She has always been a bit clumsy," she said, as her perfectly manicured hands clutched her designer purse. Her wedding rings caught the white light from the ceiling as she made a dismissive gesture. I closed my eyes, remembering the moment with crystal clarity. I was carrying a laundry basket upstairs when Evangeline appeared at the top. She had shown up unannounced again, using the key Griffin had given her without asking me. Our argument about her constant meddling quickly got worse. "This is my son's house," she hissed, moving closer. "You're just the replacement wife. The first one knew her place." Before I could answer, I felt her hands on my shoulders. The push wasn't subtle or accidental. It was deliberate, forceful, and came with a small, satisfied smile that still haunted me. "Anastasia," a young ER nurse interrupted my thoughts. "I need to check your injuries in private. It's hospital policy." She gave Griffin and Evangeline a direct look. "I'm her husband," Griffin protested, "and your mother needs to wait outside." The nurse, whose name tag read Ivy, finished firmly. "Now please." As soon as they left, Ivy's professional manner softened. "Anastasia, I need you to be honest with me," she said. "These injuries could be from a fall, but the pattern suggests you were pushed. Did someone push you?" I hesitated. Griffin would never believe me over his mother. For the last 3 years, Evangeline had been systematically undermining me, and my husband had been blind to all of it. "I have proof," I whispered. Ivy leaned in a little closer. "What kind of proof?" "Security cameras," I explained. "I installed them 2 months ago after my jewelry started to disappear. I haven't checked the footage yet, but the stairs are covered." I took out my phone with my good hand, wincing at the movement. Ivy's eyes widened. "May I?" I nodded and opened the security app. The video was clear. Evangeline's face was twisted with malice. Her hands reached out, the push deliberate. My fall was brutal to watch, but what happened next was worse. Evangeline stood at the top of the stairs, looking down at me as I lay motionless at the bottom. Then she calmly walked down, stepped over my body, and made herself a cup of tea in my kitchen. She waited 15 minutes before calling Griffin, and only then did she call for an ambulance. "Oh my God," Ivy whispered. She looked at me, her professional composure breaking. "Anastasia, I need to make a call. This is attempted murder." "My husband won't believe it," I said quietly. "He never does." "This time, he won't have a choice," Ivy replied, her jaw tight. "I'm calling the police. This isn't just domestic violence," she added. "She waited before getting you help. She wanted you to be seriously hurt." When Ivy left to make the call, I heard Evangeline's voice in the hallway. "Griffin, sweetheart, maybe we should look into getting Anastasia into therapy. These accusations about me, her paranoid behavior with those cameras, it's not healthy." "I know, Mom." Griffin's reply sank my heart. "As soon as she's better, we'll get her the help she needs." I closed my eyes as tears slid down my cheeks. 3 years of manipulation, of things being moved or broken and Griffin telling me I must have misplaced them. 3 years of Evangeline's poisonous comments and Griffin's dismissals. But this time was different. This time, I had proof. Ivy returned with 2 police officers. Through the small window in my room's door, I saw Evangeline's perfectly composed face crumble as they approached her. Griffin looked confused, then angry, as one of the officers took out a notebook. "Anastasia," Ivy said, holding my phone, "would you like to press charges?" I took a deep breath, ignoring the pain in my ribs. "Yes," I said firmly. "Yes, I would." Evangeline's outraged shriek echoed down the hall as the police began to question her. "This is ridiculous! Griffin, tell them! Tell them your wife is unstable!" But Griffin wasn't looking at his mother. He was staring at my phone screen, watching the video play back with horrifying clarity. The color drained from his face. His hands trembled as he watched his mother, the woman he had always defended, try to kill his wife. The next few days were a blur of police statements, medical checkups, and uncomfortable silences. I was released from the hospital with strict orders to rest and a prescription for painkillers that made the world feel a little fuzzy at the edges. Griffin insisted I come home, but I chose to stay with my sister, Dahlia. "He gave her a key to your house without asking you," Dahlia grumbled as she helped me settle into her guest room, "and he's been defending her for 3 years. Anastasia, I knew it was bad, but this..." I watched her arrange my medication on the nightstand, thinking about the past 3 years. The missing jewelry that Evangeline claimed I must have misplaced. The family heirlooms that would vanish after she visited, only to show up at her house later as things Griffin had supposedly given her. The constant comments about my cleaning, my cooking, my appearance, and always Griffin's same response. "Mom is just trying to help." My phone buzzed again. Another message from Griffin. "Please come home. We need to talk about this. They arrested Mom and they're treating her like a criminal." "She is a criminal," Dahlia snapped, reading over my shoulder. "She literally tried to kill you." The first court hearing was scheduled for the following week. The evidence was solid, not just the security footage, but also medical records showing Evangeline's deliberate delay in calling for help. The detective on my case, a serious woman named Detective Ivy, had more questions. "Anastasia, we found something interesting when we searched your mother-in-law's house," she said, spreading photos across the table. "Do you recognize these items?" I gasped. There, neatly arranged, were all of my missing belongings. My grandmother's sapphire necklace, my mother's pearl earrings, even the engagement ring from my first fiancé, who had died in a car accident. I had cried while searching for that ring for months. "She took them," I whispered. "All those times she said I was careless, that I was losing things. We also found this," Detective Ivy said, sliding another photo over. It was Evangeline's phone, open to a text conversation with Griffin from 3 months ago. "Anastasia is becoming a problem. She isn't good enough for you. Remember Lila? She knew her place. We need to do something about this one." Lila, Griffin's first wife, who had mysteriously fallen down those same stairs 5 years ago. She had survived but moved out immediately, divorcing Griffin and refusing to speak to anyone about what happened. "We've already contacted Lila," Detective Ivy said quietly. "She's willing to testify." The realization hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just about me. Evangeline had done this before, and Griffin knew it, or at least suspected it. That afternoon, Griffin showed up at Dahlia's house. He looked terrible, unshaven, with red eyes and wrinkled clothes. "Anastasia, please," he said when I agreed to talk to him on the porch. "You have to understand. Mom, she's not well. She needs help, not jail. If you drop the charges—" "You knew," I interrupted, "about Lila, what your mom did to her." His silence was all the answer I needed. "They found my things, Griffin. Everything she stole, everything you told me I was just careless enough to lose." My voice was steady despite the tremor in my hands. "The police found her messages with you, about me being a problem, about doing something about me." "I never thought she would actually hurt you," he protested weakly. "She is your mother, and I am your wife." The words burst out of me, years of repressed anger finally surfacing. "You gave her a key without asking me. You dismissed every concern, every fear. You watched her steal from me, humiliate me, and break me down piece by piece, and you did nothing. You chose her over me every single time." "Anastasia, don't—" I cut him off. "I'm done. The prosecutor's office is reopening Lila's case. Your mother is going to face consequences for what she did, and so are you." "What does that mean?" I pulled an envelope from my pocket, papers my lawyer had prepared that morning. It means I'm pressing charges against your mother for attempted murder and theft, and I'm divorcing you for being an accomplice and for emotional abuse." He stared at the envelope, the color draining from his face. "You can't do this. We can fix this, once my mom gets help." "Your mom pushed me down the stairs and watched me lie there, hurt for 15 minutes before getting help. And you," I laughed bitterly, "you said I needed therapy for being paranoid. Well, guess what? The cameras I installed proved I wasn't paranoid at all." I stood up, ignoring the pain in my ribs. "The detective found your mom's diary, Griffin. Pages and pages about how she got rid of Lila, how she was planning to get rid of me, and your messages encouraging her protective behavior. You are not innocent in this." His face crumpled, the concerned husband facade finally breaking. "I'm going to lose everything. My job, my reputation. You should have thought of that before you chose your mother over your wife's safety. Twice." I turned to go inside, then stopped. "Oh, and Griffin, I'm keeping the house. It turns out that trying to murder your daughter-in-law is an excellent way to void any claim on the property. Your lawyer can contact mine about the rest." I shut the door on his stunned face, leaning against it as Dahlia wrapped me in a gentle hug. "You did it," she whispered. "You're free." For the first time since my fall, I felt like I could finally breathe again. The truth was out, and neither Evangeline nor Griffin could hurt me anymore. 6 months later, I sat in the courtroom and watched Evangeline's carefully maintained composure crack as the judge read her sentence. 15 years for attempted murder, with additional charges for theft and for the reopened case with Lila. The evidence had been overwhelming. The video, her diary detailing both attacks, and Lila's powerful testimony about her own experience. "She told me I would never be good enough for her, for Griffin," Lila had testified, her hands shaking but her voice firm. "And one day, after months of psychological abuse, she pushed me down those same stairs. When I tried to tell Griffin, he said I was just confused from the fall. I knew then that I had to leave." Griffin didn't fare much better. His text messages and the documented pattern of enabling and covering up for his mother led to charges of complicity and concealment. He lost his job at the law firm when the story became public, and his reputation was ruined. The divorce had been finalized 3 months earlier, and he was sentenced to 5 years of probation and mandatory therapy. As the bailiff led Evangeline away, she turned to look at me one last time. The hate was still in her eyes, but now it was mixed with something else: defeat. She had lost everything: her freedom, her social standing, and most importantly, her control. "You did the right thing," Detective Ivy said, gently touching my shoulder as we left the courthouse. "Your case has encouraged 3 other women to come forward about similar experiences with their mothers-in-law. You started something important." I thought about those other women as I drove to my newly remodeled home. The first thing I did after the divorce was replace the staircase, not out of fear, but as a symbol of taking back my space. The security cameras stayed, though, as a reminder that trusting my instincts saved my life. My sister Dahlia helped me redecorate, removing every trace of Evangeline's influence. The stolen items she took from me were now proudly displayed in my bedroom, each one a testament to my resilience. My grandmother's sapphire necklace caught the light as I walked past my dresser, no longer hidden away in Evangeline's jewelry box. The doorbell rang. It was Lila, punctual as always for our weekly coffee. We had formed an unexpected friendship during the trial, bonding over our shared experiences and our recovery. "The house looks amazing," she said, sitting on my new sofa, which was so different from the furniture we had when we were trying to please Evangeline. I handed her a cup of coffee. "I know. Before, everything had to be beige and proper. Now, it's all about what makes me happy." Lila smiled, touching the colorful throw pillow next to her. "I did the same thing when I left. I painted my whole apartment purple just because I could. Griffin hated purple." We shared a look of understanding, both knowing how those small acts of rebellion helped us reclaim our lives. "Did you hear?" Lila asked, taking out her phone. They're starting a support group for women with abusive in-laws. They want us to speak at their first meeting. I looked at the website she showed me. Breaking the Silence. Recognizing and responding to in-law abuse. The main page had resources, warning signs, and survivor stories. We should do it, I said, surprised by my own enthusiasm. If I had known about other cases like ours, I might have installed those cameras much sooner. Speaking of cameras, Lila smiled, the security company that installed your system wants to feature your story in their new home safety campaign. Apparently, their sales of indoor cameras have tripled since your case was in the news. I laughed, thinking about how much Evangeline hated technology. She would hate knowing she had become a cautionary tale. Later that night, after Lila left, I stood in my kitchen, decorated my way, organized my way, and felt a deep sense of peace. The local news called my case a turning point for recognizing in-law abuse. But for me, it was simpler. I trusted my instincts, protected myself, and refused to be silent. My phone buzzed with a message from Detective Ivy. Another case today. A woman installed cameras after reading about you. She caught her mother-in-law tampering with her medication. She's safe now. I thought you'd want to know. I smiled, running my hand over my new countertop. Evangeline had always criticized my decorating choices, but now every bright color and modern detail felt like a victory. I learned that sometimes a happy ending isn't about forgiveness or reconciliation. Sometimes it's about breaking chains, finding your voice, and helping others find theirs. The support group meeting was scheduled for next week. My story would be the first one shared, but not as a victim's tale. It would be a roadmap for other women on how to recognize the signs, how to protect themselves, and most importantly, how to take back their lives. My security cameras blinked silently from their corners, now less about protection and more about remembrance. They had given me back my power, my voice, and my future. In the end, Evangeline's attempt to silence me only made me stronger, more resolute, and more determined to make sure no other woman suffered in silence like Lila and I had. As I got ready for bed that night, I caught my reflection in the mirror and saw something that had been missing during my years with Griffin and Evangeline: peace. I was finally, truly at peace.